are supporting local bookstores, audiobooks, and more. Join the world of stories. As always, thank you for listening.
Hi, and welcome to the Libro.fm podcast, where we talk to authors, narrators, booksellers, and more. I'm Craig.
And I'm Olivia. We're really excited because this episode is with a longtime Libro.fm fan and also just general advocate for divesting from Amazon. And our guest today is Cory Doctorow. So, like I said, he's a huge advocate for divesting from Amazon, particularly as a writer. And we're hoping that this episode is not only informational for readers, but also for writers and aspiring writers, whether traditionally or self published. Cory has just like a wealth of knowledge around these things, and you can always learn more by checking out his blog, as well as going to Libro.fm/authors. We have a ton of resources for you how to learn about producing an audiobook without Amazon, moving away, etc. All the goods. So hopefully this episode teaches you some new information like it did for me and Craig.
Yes, I loved this one. I will sit and talk about divesting from Amazon all day. It's actually how I first found out about Libro when I was looking for a way to switch,
Honestly, I'm kind of annoyed about it.
Yeah, there's nothing better than that feeling when you cancel your Prime membership, So if that's the kind of thing you're into, I think you'll like this episode. I will play a clip from Cory's newest book, and then you can listen to the interview. And if you stick around at the end, Olivia and I will talk about what books we're reading right now.
By the time she'd moved to San Jose to staff the mission house, Elizabeth Amelia Shepard Taylor was already interested in the Equal Rights Amendment. This was extraordinary because none of the women in her life, her mothers and aunts, her teachers, and her girlfriends' mothers, had a single kind word to say about the ERA. They actually threw Phyllis Schlafly watching parties at each other's houses, making an occasion of it with Jell-O salads and green bean casseroles. For many years, all that Elizabeth knew was that the ERA was wrong, wrong, wrong. She couldn't say what was wrong about it, but she knew it was bad. Something about tearing down God's calling for women to be mothers, which would lead them to neglect their families and break down the natural roles of men and women in the family. Her first inkling that this might not be the whole picture came just a week after she moved into the mission house in San Jose.
Hello, today we are joined by Cory Doctorow, who is a science fiction author, activist, and journalist. He is the author of many books, most recently Picks and Shovels and The Bezzle. Cory, welcome to the podcast. We are absolutely thrilled to have you here today.
Well, it's a pleasure. I'm a gigantic fan of Libro.
Before we get started, is there anything else that you'd like to tell listeners about yourself or what you've been up to in the bookish world recently?
Gosh, well, I have another book coming out very shortly in October called Enshittification. It's a nonfiction book from Farrar, Straus and Giroux. It's going to be a pretty big result. We're selling new foreign editions every day. Today, Hungary and Taiwan came on.
Nice.
The book is probably going to get one more pass through the final chapter, which is the Trump chapter, before it comes out, but it is otherwise done. It's been through legal review, as you might expect. The other thing is that I'm going to be doing a small, very weird art book. So I have a newsletter called Pluralistic, pluralistic.net. And every day, almost, I make a weird little collage out of mostly 19th century Gilded Age editorial cartoons, various Creative Commons material, stuff that's in the public domain, and so on. And I'm going to be releasing a small book of these, tentatively called The Canny Valley. And it will be also part of the 25th anniversary celebration of Creative Commons. And so that'll be sometime in the next year or so.
That's awesome. Why does that chapter need so much legal review? You don't want to just put the manuscript in a group text or something?
Yeah, indeed. I am a long-standing and very enthusiastic Signal user.
Yes. Given that we are a Libro and we're all about audiobooks, I would love to ask you a question about something you did a couple of years ago. So I know it's a little bit in the past, but I'm super interested in your very short audiobook called Why None of My Books Are Available on Audible and Why Amazon Owes Me $3,218.55. So I guess my question is Audible, as much as we're not fans of them, there's no denying that they're the biggest player in the market, right? Both in terms of membership and money that they can spend, and in theory, author earnings, just because of that platform. So taking your books off of there has to have some sort of impact to your potential earnings. So what went behind that decision?
Yeah, sure. It certainly has been some significant earnings. My agent has told me, frankly, that I would not neither have a mortgage nor would I be worrying about sending my kid to college next year if I had taken the Audible money. But I'm
Mm,
glad I didn't. So I've spent almost a quarter of a century now with the Electronic Frontier Foundation, a nonprofit that works on digital human rights,
Mm,
working on campaigns related broadly to digital rights management and more recently related to monopolies, which are intimately linked to digital rights management when we talk about tech monopolies. So people don't really understand. They think digital rights management is a way to restrict how you use media. And technically, there's a sense in which that's true. Someone has sat down at a keyboard and written some code that stops people from moving their audiobooks from outside of Audible authorized players and into players that have broader feature sets, work with more mobile devices, what have you. And maybe you and maybe I can't write the code to prevent to override the code that Amazon has shipped to decrypt those audiobooks and move them somewhere else, but someone could. In computer science, we have this idea, the Turing complete universal von Neumann machine, which is a computer that can run every valid computer program. And it's really the only computer we know how to make, which means that for every program that enshittifies something that makes it worse, there's a disenshittifying program that restores whatever functionality is missing. And in 1998, Bill Clinton signed a law called the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. And the DMCA, it's a big, gnarly hairball of a law, but Section 1201 makes it a felony punishable by a 5-year prison sentence and a $500,000 fine
mm,
to traffic in a tool to bypass DRM, to bypass
mm.
an access control for a copyrighted work. So here's what that means. If I write a book, which is something I do with distressing regularity, and then I sit down at a microphone and I read that book and I pay a director to direct me, or better yet, pay an amazing actor like Will Wheaton, who does not work cheap and is worth every penny, and have a director like Gabrielle DeQuere at Skyboat Media to read it in a studio that I rent, and then pay a great engineer like John Taylor Williams to master that audiobook, and then hand it to Amazon to sell it to you for $25. And then at some point in the future, I decide I don't want to sell on Amazon anymore. Maybe Amazon has started to screw me over the way they did with their ACX independent audiobook producers, who
Mm,
they stole at least $100 million from through a scandal now known as Audiblegate, where they
mhm,
used some accounting fraud to steal money from them.
yeah.
If I leave Amazon and I want to take you with me, and I want to give you a tool so you can convert your audiobook so it plays in someone else's player, plays on the Libro player, say. In other words, if I want to let you take the book off the bookcase that you bought that at Walmart and put it on a bookcase that you bought at IKEA, I commit a felony. And
Mm,
that felony is punishable by a $500,000 fine and a 5-year prison sentence, which is a significantly more harsh legal penalty than I would face or that you would face if you were to merely download the audiobook from a torrent site. It's also a higher penalty than you would face if you shoplifted the audiobook on CD from a truck stop, and it's probably a worse penalty than you would face if you stuck up the truck that delivered the CD with a pistol and stole all the CDs. Right? So this is a copyright law that does not serve copyright creators or proprietors. Amazon doesn't invest in the book. Amazon doesn't create the book. Amazon
right.
doesn't publish the book. What Amazon does here is they put the book on a file server and process a transaction payment for it. and they have more rights to it than I do. And it lets them usurp the relationship between the creator and their audience. And that's not just a moral problem. It means that Amazon knows they can maltreat me and maltreat you. And so long as the maltreatment is less than the cost that either of us would pay to change platforms, we will probably eat shit and ask for more.
Yeah.
And so I refuse to allow my books to be sold with DRM. So Amazon refuses to sell my books. But Amazon has this ACX self-serve platform. And the way that it works is you can hire an audiobook narrator to read an audiobook that you have the rights to and sell it on Amazon. And people assume that because my books aren't sold on Audible, that they must be in the public domain or they're not available, or maybe they're just people who are scammers. And so they purport to have the rights to my audiobooks and they have narrators read the books and they offer them profit sharing. So the narrators aren't paid anything, they do days or weeks of work. And then they offer them for sale. And then I have to go and have the books taken down. And Amazon keeps the money from selling these pirated editions to the
Are you
tune of over $3,000. And so eventually I recorded an audiobook that just explains what the hell is going on so that people who look for my audiobooks on Audible know that they should come and get them on Libro or somewhere else.
Mm.
are you noticing any trends from other authors? Like, is anyone else following suit and also kind of taking their stuff off of, the Amazon platform, or are you kind of the lone wolf here fighting this fight?
I'm not the lone wolf, but there's few others that have done it. The most notable example is Brandon Sanderson,
Mhm.
Yeah,
who started
yeah.
kickstarting his audiobooks and made, I believe, over $60
I was going to
million
say, and it
doing
worked
it.
out pretty well. Yeah,
Yeah. Um,
yeah,
but honestly, while this is a windmill that I'm going to tilt at because it's been my professional life, this isn't a thing we solve with individual action. We should
yeah.
withdraw the legal privilege that allows Amazon to decide how you use your audiobooks. At the very least, that uh, decision should devolve to creative workers who produce the
Mhm.
audiobooks. But there should be some degree of latitude for owners of books too. I don't think you should need my permission as the writer of a print book to decide on whose bookcase you shelve it either. I think that
Right.
should be your own goddamn business.
I mean, we're obviously seeing right now a huge shift of individuals away from Amazon, whether they're canceling their Prime memberships or Audible subscriptions or realizing that indie bookstores exist in the first place. Um, so many folks are really acknowledging the harm Amazon has on a number of industries and especially small businesses. And you touched on this a bit, but I'm curious if you could share more about how you avoid Amazon for other authors and also self-published authors who obviously, like you said, really use ACX especially and are expressing concerns right now about this migration away from Amazon because they do make most of their money through Audible, Amazon, etc.
I wish I had better news for you, but I think as an individual, it's just really hard. The best time to fight monopolies is before they form.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And that's because once you have a monopoly like Amazon that can use its investors' capital to do something that's illegal, it's called predatory pricing
Hmm.
that drives rivals out of business. So when Amazon was starting off, we think of Amazon as a business that conquered all these verticals like groceries and diapers and books and electronics and so on by being the best retailer and by putting everyone else out of business. The reality is what Amazon did was they went around and they bought
yeah,
the leading companies in each of those verticals. Not
Hmm.
all those companies wanted to sell. There's a company called diapers.com that refused to sell to Amazon. Amazon tapped the capital markets and lit $200 million on fire, selling diapers below cost over a course of months until diapers.com, which had been an extremely successful business, went out of business because you cannot compete with diapers that are being sold below cost. And then what Amazon did was they bought them for pennies on the dollar and shut them down. And anyone else who showed up in a boardroom with Amazon and Amazon made an offer to buy them out knew that they better take the goddamn offer or the next year was going to be 10 cents on the dollar.
right.
And so it is very hard to find retailers, both in the physical world and in the digital world, that are better than Amazon. Amazon also is able to violate a law called the Reitman-Patman Act. that Robinson Patent Act, sorry, the RPA, which bans companies from demanding preferential discounts. So, in other words, if a case of books from, HarperCollins carries a 45% discount at a regular bookstore, legally under the Robinson Patent Act, it can't be sold to Amazon at less than a more than a 45% discount. But the Robinson Patent Act hasn't been enforced since the Reagan years. It's how we got Walmart. That's where Walmart came
Mm.
from. They stopped enforcing the Robinson Patent Act. We saw our first Robinson Patent Act enforcement last year under Biden, the first one since Reagan, against a liquor distributor, and another one over groceries. And what that means is oftentimes the cost that other retailers sell at is higher than the cost that Amazon gets as their wholesale, right? You just can't compete with it. And
Right.
so businesses went under. And so, yeah, there are firms like Libro.fm, and I buy my audiobooks exclusively from Libro.fm. I love Libro.fm, and it's great. And I have local indie bookstores, and I use bookshop.org and so on. But this is trying to patch the bleeding.
Mhm.
And what we need is surgery, right? What we need is antitrust law, which we got for the first time under Biden in 40 years. And it can be quite depressing to look at what's happening now. They just fired two of the Democratic
Right.
Federal Trade Commission commissioners
Yeah.
illegally. They're suing Rebecca Slaughter and Alvaro Bedoya, who are excellent commissioners. But the thing to remember is that all that antitrust action under Biden, it didn't come about as a result of like sustained corporate lobbying for anti-billionaire action, right? There was no dark money fund that created the antitrust movement. That was like a popular movement, right? And it's not just here, it's in Europe, in the United Kingdom, in Canada, Australia, Germany, France. It's in China. China has like this new, extremely robust anti-Chinese big tech antitrust law, the cyberspace directive, that is aimed at shattering the power of Chinese tech companies in China, because everyone has figured out that this is bad for us. And so, yeah, as an individual, do what you can, but don't kill yourself. In her excellent book, Break 'Em Up, the law professor and former New York governor candidate Zephyr Teachout tells us a kind of parables, gives an example of someone who wants to go and protest at the Amazon warehouse where they're having a union drive, but misses the protest because they spend 2 hours driving around looking for a mom and pop shop to buy some cardboard and markers to make their protest sign, because they didn't want to buy it on Amazon. Amazon wins in that case, right? The
Yeah.
couple of bucks they make off the cardboard is much less of an advantage to them than the disadvantage that you would cause by putting your body on the picket line. So I would say focus on movements, right?
Mhm.
That's what you really got to do. Don't try and shop your way out of monopoly capitalism, or recycle your way out of the climate emergency, or be personally nice out of the rising tide of fascism. Get involved in movements. That's the only thing that's going to fix it.
Mm.
um, I'm finding it hard to transition into my next question here, because that felt very powerful, and so thank you. You sort of touched on this kind of in the intro, but you mentioned pluralistic and enshittification, and I kind of went down the rabbit hole on this earlier this week when I was preparing for this interview, and I read that you're currently working on a book titled Enshittification, and a term that you coined, which even when I was doing my research has its own very robust Wikipedia page, so a little jealous. But for listeners who might not be familiar, can you give us a quick overview of what Enshittification means and where you think it's heading in today's kind of specific political and economic climate?
Yeah, sure. So, as I said, for 23 years, I've been working with the Electronic Frontier Foundation, trying to get normies to care about tech policy. Turns out the secret was swearing. And enshittification is a dirty little word that I coined to describe a very serious technical and political and economic critique of what tech is doing and how it got that way and what we should do about it. And so, on the one hand, it describes a process, right? What we can see from the outside. You see tech platforms that are good to their end users, lock their end users in, abuse those end users to benefit business customers, lock the business customers in, and then take all the value from both groups, harvest it for shareholders and for executives, and then turn into a pile of shit. And I think everyone remembers, when Facebook was good and then they made it worse to be good for advertisers, and then they made it
Mhm.
worse for the advertisers. Now it's just terrible for everyone except for Mark Zuckerberg and the creeps who
Mhm.
invested in him.
Right.
You say the same about Apple, Google, and so on. Internally, what's happening in those firms, the kind of, that's the symptomology, then the internal mechanism, the thing the disease is doing inside the corporate body is that it allows digital platforms are able to do uh, a lot of value shifting because they're so flexible, right? Every time you visit a digital platform, everything about the underlying business logic can change in response to your visit. The price, the costs, the search rankings, the recommendation systems, they can
Mhm.
all be different every single time. And so it's just a shell game. And shell games, they're pretty crude, right? Have you ever seen like Penn and Teller do the cup and balls really
Yeah.
slow with transparent cups? Where they show you how it's done. It's a very crude trick that the thing that makes it work is that it's done smoothly and quickly. And computers are smooth and quick. Robot hands are so fast that you can do all of this. I call it twiddling really quickly. So, like an example of this, almost all the hospital nurses in America these days work through one of three Uber for Nurses apps that have replaced the old staffing agencies, ShiftMed, CareMed, and CareRev. And these apps, when a nurse signs on for a shift, acquire that nurse's credit history from a data broker. And if the nurse has high outstanding credit card debt, that nurse is offered a lower wage for their shift on the grounds that people who are facing a mountain of debt are more desperate for work. Right. Now, that's not like a trick that, you know, a black-hearted coal boss and an old Tennessee Ernie Ford song would have scrupled to play. That it's the kind of trick that bosses have dreamed of playing since the year
Mhm.
dot. The difference is that you can automate it, right? So this is what makes it digital. And then the last part of this is like why it's happening now. Because platforms have been digital for a long time. They've had this flexibility. They've always been run by people who are greedy, and all other things being equal, would have liked to have paid less to their workers and charged more to their customers. So why are they doing it now? And for that, I think you have to look at the constraints that stopped them from doing it before. They used to have competitors, then they forced their competitors out of business or bought them. They used to have regulators, then they captured their regulators. They used to have to worry about interoperability, but then they got IP laws that
Hmm.
allowed them to sue or jail people who made interoperable products. And finally, they used to have to worry about their workers because tech workers were really powerful because they were in high demand. And now they don't have to worry about that anymore either, because there's been 400,000 tech industry layoffs in the last couple 3 years, and tech workers don't get to tell their bosses to screw off anymore. If you're a tech worker at say Amazon, I'd be looking at how the warehouse workers at Amazon are treated, because that's how Jeff Bezos treats the
Right.
workers who he's not afraid of. Right. And that's what's coming for you. No more pink mohawks, facial piercings, and t-shirts that say things your boss doesn't understand. Your future involves a pee jar next to your computer, just like the one next to the warehouse station where the packer works.
It reminds me a lot of, well, the book is everywhere right now, obviously, but Careless People, to tell all about Meta and whatnot. And I feel like that goes along the lines of what you were saying. Like they started one way, and of course, like over the course of X amount of years since their start, their quote unquote mission has changed just so viscerally. The enshittification of it based off of stakeholders and the climate around them and just what serves the capitalistic purpose. So
The consequences of betraying the mission went away and the mission was betrayed. It's funny because I'm a leftist and, people
We
on the
we hadn't
right,
we
and they
hadn't
say,
noticed, Corey.
yeah. And my adversaries on the right, they say, "Oh, we can't give people universal health care because they'll abuse it. We can't give people welfare because they'll abuse it. Incentives matter." But then you give bosses no punishments for cheating and
Hmm.
rewards for cheating. And it's like these are the only people who apparently don't respond to incentives. Incredible. Like what an amazing thing it must be to be the kind of human against whom incentives don't matter, and also be a billionaire. Incredibly coincidental that they all end up being billionaires too.
It's also been proven that you can give universal health care and other social welfare programs to great success by basically every other country in the West. So like it's such a ridiculous argument.
Well, like all the best Americans, I'm Canadian. So I'm intimately familiar with this. We're like serial killers. We're everywhere. We look just like everyone else, so you can be forgiven. But
Well, thank you as
yeah,
a
and then I
Canadian for
lived in.
coming on our American podcast right
I
now. I know it's
know.
very,
Well, I live in Los Angeles, and I am formerly a Londoner and was naturalized to Britain. So I've had both the NHS and OHIP, which is Medicare in Ontario. So both are not without their failings, but I tell you what, I'd take either of them over the best American healthcare I've ever received.
this is going to be a real tough transition into our lightning round questions, guys.
No, but I do want to ask you one more question though, Corey, before we
Sure.
get to the fun stuff. Not that this isn't fun. I'm actually learning a ton, so thank you.
Yes, yes.
Um, but you're also a huge advocate for decentralized social media, and this is somewhat of a selfish question because I manage Libro.fm's social media and I am always trying to learn more and all that I can about what's next for social media. And we love Blue Sky slash I love Blue Sky. And I know that you've spoken a lot about the potential on that platform. And it's been really great to see more and more writers and bookstores and readers make their way into the space, especially since X slash Twitter was originally a huge community for readers and writers. And I'm curious if you could speak more about what decentralization, particularly for social media, means, and if you have any thoughts on how it might benefit readers slash the reading community or authors.
Yeah, so decentralization, it's one of those big words like fairness or whatever, where everyone uses it. No two people can agree on what it means. But there's a couple of features of decentralization as it applies to social media that I'm particularly attentive to, and they are federation and portability. So federation is social media that's made up of lots of servers, or any media service that's made up of lots of servers that are joined together. So think about email, right? Email has got like a couple of really big systems like Gmail and Outlook, and it's got a bunch of really small systems. I have my own mail server in a cage in Toronto that my friend Ken Snyder runs for me called craphound.com. And then there's privacy focused ones like Proton Mail and so on. It doesn't really matter which email server you're on, everyone can send email to everyone else. And what that means is that if the mail server you're on is run in a way that's like incompetent, or if the owners are bad, or if you just don't like the vibe, you can switch and you can still stay in touch with everyone else. It limits the power of the people who run it to enshittify it, because if you can leave, then they have to treat you better or you'll go. And if they don't internalize that message, then you can go, right? And so that's always there for you. Um, the other piece of this though is portability. So if you change email accounts, it's kind of a pain in the ass. You've got to email everyone your address book and tell them to update your address book. Think about your phone, right? If you're on Verizon and you want to switch to T-Mobile, by law, you can place a call to Verizon or log into your Verizon account and do a thing called a number port. It takes about
So you can
5
take your
seconds.
phone number, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And now you've got a T-Mobile SIM that rings with your old Verizon number. Your friends don't even know. They don't have to know. It'd be weird to pick up the phone and say, "Hey, it's Cory. By the way, you're reaching me on T-Mobile now, not Verizon." Screw those guys, right? You're just where you are. Because what your friends want to do is they want to talk to you. They don't want to talk to you on Verizon. They don't care where you are.
I only
So,
talk to AT&T friends personally. If you're on
yeah,
anything
that's
else,
right.
yeah.
Well, look, before number portability, that was the idea. If you remember, they used to do things like preferential rates to people who were on your same network, and they wouldn't let you take your phone number with you if you left. So they'd hold you, they would get you to lure your friends in, and then they'd have your friends hold you hostage, right?
Mm.
Because you liked them, they liked you. You all agreed you hated AT&T, but you couldn't agree on where to go next, and how to exchange your phone numbers when you did. And so you were all stuck on AT&T getting the shaft, right? And so when you let people leave, you make the management of the service treat you better, right? What I think of as federation and portability, they're like fire exits for dumpster fires, right? Like the party can be great, but if it turns into a dumpster fire, you got to be able to leave, right?
Mhm.
So Blue Sky has got a lot of federated services, right? They've got federated moderation, they've got federated recommendation, they've got federated data storage, and so on. What they don't have is portability.
Mm,
There's no way to leave Blue Sky and go somewhere else and still exchange messages with the people you left behind on Blue Sky. I think this is like a party with 30 million people at it that has no fire exits. I think it's really dangerous.
Mhm.
Now, by contrast, Mastodon has that.
right,
Mastodon's a lot smaller.
right.
Now, the Blue Sky people, including a board member who I ran into in Austin at South by a couple of weeks ago, and also their CTO who I ran into in Boston. I only go to cities that rhyme with Austin. Uh,
Two of
uh,
my favorite cities, honestly.
yeah,
So
I was in Boston at an American Association for the Advancement of Science meeting, and I ran into the
Mm,
CTO of Blue Sky, and both of them assured me that we are weeks away from portability in Blue Sky.
oh,
And
sneak
so that's
peek.
very exciting. Now, what does this all mean for writers and readers? It means that if it sucks, you can leave, but you can still keep the people who are following you, and the people who are following you can still stay in touch with you. And you don't all have to agree on when you're going to go and where you're going to go when it's time to go. You can take your leave as you like, and that means that broadly, Blue Sky is going to treat everyone better, and if they don't, then everyone can go. And that, I think, is the thing we should be thinking about. Not how well Blue Sky works. I know that's really important when your job is to sell books. But we should be thinking about how it fails,
Yeah,
right? And right now, Blue Sky does not fail gracefully. I really hope that it does. I don't think that they've delayed federation because or portability because they were, nefarious. I think they just like prioritized the stuff that people wanted to use, the
yeah.
stuff that
The
worked.
social stuff.
yeah. I mean, they had to
Yeah,
port people over from X and Instagram and wherever, right? So
yeah,
you needed those features for sure.
yeah. But like, I get it, right? But that's like saying, well, I built my nightclub and I just focused on like making sure the toilets work and the DJs were
The
great and
vibes.
the bar was well stocked, the vibes were awesome. I figured we could do the fire exits later. And that
I'll
sounds
just say I've
great
needed a
until a
bathroom
fire
at a
bursts.
club a lot more than I've needed a fire exit. Just saying.
I look, you don't need a fire exit until you do, and then you better really hope that you got one,
Yeah.
right? And the fact is they're taking venture capital now. And if you want to keep your venture capitalists from ordering you to
Right.
Enshittify your products, you need to be able to turn around and tell them, hey, I can Enshittify my product if you make me. I mean, obviously, you've got the purse strings, but I want you to know 45% of our users will be gone by Monday and another
Right.
30% by Wednesday. And then maybe the venture capitalist decides not to Enshittify it. And if they do, well, that's bad news for you, but it's great news for your users because they can still survive that. They're not trapped inside the burning dumpster fire with you.
Thank you. I'm excited to see what happens when they release that.
I hope so too. I'm really excited too. It turns out that like the technical issue was that if you wanted to do the kind of service guarantees that you get on the Blue Sky mothership, where you get like within 1 second, you find out whether they're like you get an accurate like read count and reply count and so on. That's like a $20 million outlay. But if you just don't mind that if it's delayed by about 10 seconds, then you can drop it to 150
Oh
bucks.
my gosh.
So that's at least my understanding of it. So there's going to be just like a slower, like a lower level of service guarantee for these federated outposts. That's fine.
That's
That's
fun.
fine.
Well, on that note, talking about the demise of the tech industry and democracy and et cetera, I'm about to ask you your favorite way to eat a potato. So, um, on the Libra podcast, we end every episode with asking very silly questions after we do all the hard hitting journalism at the beginning of the
Sure.
episode. So, we're going to ask you a series of very silly questions. You don't have to think about them. These are usually like 1 or 2 sentence answers. So with that, Olivia has the first one.
I thought the
Ye-
first one was about
I
potatoes.
know. I was going to say, Craig, you really
I
set that one up.
so we can start with that one. Funny enough, I had a different question for whatever reason while you were talking. I was like, I'm going to ask him about a potato. I don't know. It popped into my head, so I literally changed it in my script. So let's start with that. What is your
Okay,
favorite
so
way to eat a potato?
I am a low carb guy, so I'm not supposed to eat potatoes. But the potato I will always make an exception for is my brother-in-law Robbie Milton's potatoes, which we call Buchanan oysters because they live on Buchanan Gardens in West London. And Robbie cuts the potatoes in half and roasts them in duck fat. And then, so first he fries them and then first he boils them and then he roasts them in duck fat. But then the way to eat them is you scoop them out and you fill them with his gravy.
Ooh.
And then you shoot it like an oyster.
Oh my
And they're
God.
just like insanely good. Just like, oh, my mouth is watering. Oh, this is disgusting.
This is an amazing
they're
answer.
so
I thought
good.
you were going to be like curly fry. You know, like,
No. You
yeah.
can't if you're gonna like put that much starch in your body, it should matter.
Yeah, you got to go all in. You got to go
Yeah.
shoot a potato like an oyster. I gotcha.
Yeah.
Not to make any of us hungrier, but if you could have dinner with any author, dead or alive, who would it be?
Dead or alive.
They will be alive during the dinner.
Yes,
even if they are
yes.
Right.
currently
Yeah.
Yes,
it's not
thank
this is
you.
not a
Look,
Weekend at Bernie's
I
situation.
think if we're gonna put dead in there, it's gonna have to be like, I don't know, like the guy who wrote the Rosetta Stone or something. Like presumably like that guy's got a lot to say that would be really interesting and shed a lot of light on things, or some like Babylonian ledger
Mm.
maintainer, or
This feels like a new National Treasure movie.
I mean Moses, maybe Moses.
Moses.
Oh.
Did
Okay, I
Moses
like it.
write the book of Moses? I feel like a bad Jew. But
He
I'm going to say Moses wrote the book of Moses and that it's a memoir and that I would have dinner with Moses.
I love it.
okay.
If you could upload your consciousness into any household appliance, which one would you choose and why?
That is the weirdest question ever.
I know. I mean, this is lightning round. It's what it's all about.
I mean, I've written a bunch of stories about consciousness uploading strictly as a parable. It's not a real thing. All those tech bros who think that it's
This
going
is
to
why I
happen,
asked
they're
it.
nuts. That cyberpunk is a warning, not a manual. What would I upload my consciousness into? I guess the Roomba, only because it can
Oh.
move.
Because you can move.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you spend a lot of time sucking up dirt, but like
TJ Klune had a book about robots, and one of them was like basically a Roomba that was sentient.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I guess a Roomba.
Nice.
My
Or
very
no, a NutriBullet.
Oh.
That's very
I just
different.
wanna-
You can't
I
move at
just
all.
want to blend things. I just want to emulsify. It's like how I'll bring harmony to the universe. I'll
Oh my
make
God.
everything Gaussian.
I hope you like smoothies then for the rest of your
I-
life.
I'm going to make everything into a smoothie, like hats, other appliances.
Normally,
I was just gonna say, related to that, I had a friend who broke her jaw and she, for like X amount of months, could only drink liquids.
Oh, Jesus.
We got to the point where we were blending mac and cheese. We were
Ugh.
blending potatoes with all the toppings. So
It's like that song, chicks and ducks and geese better scurry when I whiz them up in a slurry, when I whiz them up in a slurry for my broken jaw.
I have no clue what song that is.
It's from
Sorry
Paint
with a
Your
fringe on
Wagon.
top.
Yeah, Surrey
Yeah.
with
That
a
should be our
fringe
new
on top.
jingle.
Yeah.
Now I want to Harry Met Sally, but that's for another day. So we
I didn't
normally
say I wanted to be in a. Sorry, that's a dirty joke. I'm not going to say that. I was thinking.
I mean,
of
this
I'll have
episode's
what she's
already
having,
getting the little
and
explicit
I thought of another
badge. So.
appliance. Sorry.
So normally we do a thing called Instagram story time where we like comb through the guest Instagram and ask a question about a photo of theirs. But I saw on your Instagram you haven't posted in like 400 years.
No, I don't have an Instagram. That's someone else. I'm a Zucker
is it really?
vegan.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
I
I'm a
assumed it
Zucker
was
vegan.
you, but you stopped because of everything we just talked about.
No
Okay.
Facebook, no WhatsApp, no Facebook Messenger, no Instagram, no
Good for
Threads.
you.
And lips that touch Mark Zuckerberg shall never touch mine.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we're gonna skip
But I have
that.
I've been on Flickr since 2004.
Nice. What is this Flickr story time? So I'm going to add one more lightning round, and I'll give you two actually and let you choose. So the first one is, what sci-fi trope do you secretly love even though it's totally overdone? Or why is your website named Crap Hound? You can pick.
And the Crap Hound one's very boring. It's just the first story I published was called Crap Hound. I was very excited. It was about alien yard sale aficionados.
Okay.
SF trope that's hackneyed, but that I like. I mean, probably time travel. Everyone loves time travel, right? Everyone wants to go and undo the sins of the past. I think it was Charlie Strauss who had this idea for a time travel story where someone goes back to kill Hitler and they meet like baby Hitler and they meet the baby Hitler defenders. And it turns out that like before Hitler, there was someone who wasn't nearly as bad and they killed that guy and you got Hitler. And before that guy, there was someone who wasn't nearly as bad and they killed that guy and they got the guy who was better than Hitler. And it turns out that like Hitler is the result of killing a series of people who are bad, but not as bad as the person who came after them. And these
Friggin'
people
time
have now
travel.
formed like a defensive cordon around baby Hitler to stop him from being killed by time travelers because they're in terror of what would come after if we got rid of Hitler.
Wait, does that all happen in a book? Is that a specific
Yeah,
book?
I think it was a Charlie Strauss story. It might have just been a
Oh,
gimmick he came up with at a con or something, but it's a very Straussian riff.
Love
yeah.
it.
Okay, well, on the topic of books, then, Corey, before we let you go, our final question is, what is a book you've recently read and loved?
Well, I literally finished a book 15 minutes ago.
Oh my gosh.
Comes out in the spring. It's called Little Bosses Everywhere, and it's a history of pyramid schemes in America. This is a
Mm,
theme in my new novel, Picks and Shovels. And it's not just like a history, it's really a way of understanding the role that pyramid schemes have played in corrupting the American political process and the role, the centrality they have to cult-like evangelical movements,
Mhm.
and and the stark reality that over and over again, people have tried to bring pyramid schemes to heel, but that the pyramid selling line is that somewhere in the pyramid is someone selling something to someone else, and that's never the case. There's just like even after we had rules passed, like the Amway rule that's supposed to force pyramid
Mhm.
schemes to mostly sell merchandise to normies and not just have salespeople buy merchandise that that no one wants, but somehow book that as a sale. That those laws have never been enforced, and that all of our pyramid schemes are violating the Amway rule, including Amway. And they're doing so, they claim to be like an $80 billion industry, which is really to say they're an $80 billion fraud that's just stealing from people, wrecking their lives and lying to them. And it's an incredible book. It's an incredible history. It goes back to the early roots of this and the beginning of the last century, and all the failures of regulators to rein them in and the people who've like chased them for their whole lives, made their whole life like tilting at these windmills. These people are sort of lovable cranks who are just like the world's most dedicated anti-pyramid scheme people. It's really good. It's really just a fantastic book.
We spoke to Amanda Montell, right,
Mhm.
Craig?
yep.
A
Yep.
long time ago. I'm a big fan of her and
Is
learning
she
about
I can't
MLMs and
I'm embarrassed because I can't remember the author. Is that her?
She
oh,
wrote
no.
Cultish.
She wrote Cultish, yeah, and it really
Yeah.
gets
Oh,
into pyramid schemes,
oh, I see.
MLMs, all of
Yeah.
that, and
Yeah,
focusing on, like, the cult-like aspect of them.
I
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah, Little Bosses Everywhere is by Bridget Reed. She's I
Okay.
think a New Yorker writer.
Okay.
Um, and
Awesome.
I'm gonna write a review of it later today. I'm pretty sure you've got it in the Libro store as well. And I did just buy Careless People from Libro. Uh, I listen to audiobooks. I swim every day because I've got a bad back,
Mm.
and I have an underwater MP3 player. And of course, you can't play Audible books in those players because they're DRM'd. So I load them up with
Oh.
Libro books, and I get through a couple of novels a month that way, or sometimes nonfiction. I've just loaded up the Careless People. I was in Stuttgart last week in Germany, and I got to have lunch with Stefan von Holtzbrink, who owns Macmillan, who are the ones who published it. And he was speaking very highly of it and about how glad he was that they published the book, despite all the expense that's
Yeah.
arising from these legal battles.
Yeah, I went through it so quickly on
Hmm.
audio. If you're going to listen to it while swimming, maybe get the first
Skip the
chapter.
first part about the
Skip
shark.
Yeah, the whole
Yeah.
first chapter is about a shark attack.
Yeah.
So maybe don't listen to that chapter.
Exactly.
I don't think we get these in swimming pools. I think
I
they're
don't know.
okay.
I would be triggered regardless. I'd be
I
like,
think
shark's
they're
gonna just
okay.
come.
Oh man.
I hope you
well,
enjoy it.
thank you so much, Cory. I know that we're
Thank you.
well
It's a real
over time now, but it was
No.
time enjoyed. I feel like I just went to like school or something. I just learned so
Honestly.
much.
Aw.
You were so. This is really great. Thank you so much for the time.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you. And very digestible also, not like you make it very accessible to understand this information.
I struggle to be digestible. That's very good.
No, really. Thank
It'll
you for
help
all
if
you.
if that shark attack occurs. Being digestible would be a real virtue.
All right, well, I hope when you go swimming later, there's no great whites in your pool.
In your
So,
pool.
In the pool.
yeah,
We live across the street from the Burbank public swimming pool, and it's Olympic, it's outdoors, it's heated, and I always get a lane to myself. It's an amazing pool.
that's
So
amazing.
Amazing.
yeah.
All right, well, awesome. Thank you for coming on the
Although
podcast.
not
And
like that reservoir in Austin, which is the best swimming I've ever had.
I
That
don't think
place
I've
is
ever been in there.
incredible.
I've only been into Barton Spring and
That's the
like.
one. That's the
Oh yeah,
one.
that is great then.
Like 250-meter lengths. Like that is an incredible swimming place. So the water is fresh and it's moving, and oh, it's
And there's
incredible.
bats everywhere.
And there's bats. It's
Yeah.
great.
Awesome. All
So
right. Thank you
funny.
so much.
All
We'll
right.
talk to you
Enjoy
soon.
Talk to you
yourself.
guys
Thanks,
later.
Cory. Thanks so much to Cory for chatting with us about Amazon and moving away from it. And now Craig would love to talk to you about what books you've been reading, what books you've been loving.
I have been on a nonfiction kick. I was looking at my story graph, and I think for the first time ever, it's about half and half, which is very unusual for me. But I've been on that kick. I just finished a pretty big one called Original Sin, and the subtitle is President Biden's Decline, Its Cover-Up, and His Disastrous Choice to Run Again. So a nice little fluffy beach read, if you will. Why I decided to pick this book up, I don't know, but it was a little depressing, but it was really good too. Like it has a lot of like inside information of everything that was going on inside the White House, and the decision when he dropped out and kind of how that happened. And I don't know if you're into politics and nonfiction, this is a really good one. I enjoyed it. It's written by journalists Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson, and it's not like an opinion piece. Like the citations for this book are like 50 pages long of all the interviews and sources and everything. So it's pretty interesting. But I also know that politics right now is a lot for everyone. So this might not be the escapist novel you're looking for to bring to the beach, but if you're into it, I found it really intriguing.
I unfortunately cannot picture that book without picturing, I don't know if you've seen it, the Jon Stewart segment on the book.
No, I haven't.
You should look it up. It's really funny. It's basically just every single time the author promotes the book, it's just like clip after clip after clip after clip. Thanks, Craig.
Yeah. So on that up note, what are you reading?
Well, I'm going to give a nonfiction and fiction. I feel like what I bring to this podcast is
always having two recommendations. Yeah.
Sorry, I just read.
You're making me look bad. Next episode, I'm going to have to come with two.
Okay, first up, I'm actually like almost not even halfway through this one, but two of my most anticipated reads for the year. That's what I'm going to talk about today. And both of them have been Chef's Kiss, Everything I've Wanted. And I feel like that's the best feeling or one of the best feelings about being a reader, when you just know there's a book that you really want to read and it ends up living up to those expectations. So the first is I'll Tell You When I'm Home by Hala Alian. And it's her debut memoir. She's a fantastic fiction writer, super acclaimed poet. Really check out all of her stuff. I mean, to write memoirs, fiction, and poetry, like you're pretty talented, goes without saying. And this is her memoir about surrogacy, exile, diasporas, love, family, roots, what it means to even have or not have roots in the first place. And it's so beautiful. And her poetry and that voice really just shines through the entire book. And I feel like I just really can't put it down right now. So even if I'm not even halfway through, I'm calling it as one of my favorite books of the year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's also a nice little fluffy beach read. It sounds like we're really hitting the July notes over here today.
Okay, but my next one could be a better beach read. Still really heavy, but also has some fun. This is Disappoint Me by Nicola Dinan. And this book, I don't know if those listening, if you've read Bellies a few years ago, one of my favorite books of the year when it came out. This one, phenomenal follow-up. It's about love and friendship and angst. There's so much angst. And growing up and community. And not only is she just such a phenomenal writer, but I really felt like this book dove into what it means to disappoint somebody and what it means to be disappointed, and having those really hard conversations with ourselves and with others about when it's okay to forgive somebody and when, frankly, we just need to move on. And I love a book that makes me think and second guess my own instincts. And this book really did that. So there definitely is humor in it. There's definitely fun, and it's balanced with these other more quote unquote serious topics. So if you're like me, you could read this on a beach, but maybe not everybody.
I'm definitely going to grab it. This book has been on my list as well. Mostly, to be completely transparent, the cover.
The cover.
It's so good. I've seen it at the Booksmith like 100 times. I'm like, I don't even know what that book is or what it's about, but I've got to get it. It's so like the neon pink with the green. Ugh.
Do you know? Okay, so this book came out a few months ago in the UK, and it just came out, I want to say, last week of May in the States. And I was traveling in the UK a few months ago before it was out in the States, and I didn't get the book, even though it was on my most anticipated list, because I was like, I need this US cover. I like the US cover so much more. So that really shows.
I'm looking at the UK one. It's pretty good too, though.
It's pretty good too.
Is like this balloon with the nail through it or whatever? Yeah. Man.
But I really liked this one.
Yeah. All right. Well, I know what I'm getting after work today, so thanks for the tips there.
You're welcome.
Thanks for listening to this episode, everyone, and we will see you next month.